So first of all, we should have the idea about what are the functions of our skeletal system. Why we need to have a skeletal system? What is the importance of it? Right? So here, these are the things you have to mention when you are asking a question regarding the functions of skeletal system. So you have to mention these things, right? Because we have a lot of answers, but our answer should be focusing to these points. So one function is the locomotion. That is, we have the ability to move from one place to another place, right? By just the function in the skeletal system. So locomotion is one thing, and one other function is the support, right? It holds our body off the ground. So if we do not have a skeletal system, what will happen? Neither. So we may like a worm then, right? Worm is there, neither, and it keeps our shape, right? And also, so when we are contracting the muscles also, it helps to keep the shape of the body, right? Locomotion, support, and movement, right? Movement means, so the skeleton works with muscles. So they are attached to produce movements. The muscles, the bones are attached to the muscles to make the movements. Okay. So then that is the main important, because we are sending our signal to function the muscle. Right, we are sending the signal from the brain to function the muscle, so to contract the muscle. As muscle is joined with the skeletal system, then what happens? When the muscle is functioning, the bone is functioning, right? Because we can't move our bones here, right? So we can't move the bones with the help of our nerve system here. We can't move the bones with the help of our nervous system, because no nerve signals are sending for the bone system or skeletal system, but it is connected. All the signals are then connected with the muscles. Then muscles are joined with the bones. While we are functioning the muscles, then the skeletal system is functioning, right? That is one function of our skeletal system, movements. And protection. This is very important. How? The brain is protected by the skull, right? So vertebrae is protected by this. This is into other side. The spinal cord actually. Our spinal cord is they are protected by our backbone, right? Vertebra. So our spinal cord is protected there, and also you know that our lungs and heart protect by the ribs and the breastbone here. Breastbone and the ribs. Our lungs and hearts are protected by the chest, neither, sternum, breastbone is the sternum. And the pelvis that shields the reproductive organs. So see how the skeletal system gives the protection for the organisms. And also, the skeletal system supports to produce blood cells. The blood cells, red and white blood cells are produced in the bone marrows. Bone marrows are in our bones, and there are specific areas in our bones. They produce our blood cells, red blood cells as well as white blood cells. Okay, so then it gives that support. So those are the functions of our skeletal system: the locomotion, support, movement, protection, and the production of blood cells. Then we should keep them in mind. Then this is our skeletal system. Here you do not need to remember the names of every part of the skeletal system, but we have some specific parts there to remember, right? Here, normally when we consider human skeletal system, so it is divided into two parts: axial skeleton and the appendicular skeleton. You know that our nerve system is divided into two parts. So what are those then? Central nerve system and the peripheral nerve system. So likewise, our skeletal system is also divided into two parts. That is axial skeleton and the appendicular skeleton. Right? The bones which are present at the side of the body, and the bones located at the middle axis of the body. Likewise. So what are the bones in this axial skeleton? Skull, vertebra column. Right? Vertebra column is this. This is the vertebra column. This is the skull. The vertebra. The spinal cord is going through this vertebra column, right? Going through this, because our spinal cord is protected by this particular column. And the ribs are attached to this vertebra column. And the sternum is the breastbone, right? Those are belongs to our axial skeleton, right? And appendicular skeleton normally contain these forelimbs and the hind limbs. The arms and legs are there, right? Okay, then this part is also important in this lesson. What is the joints? What type of joints we have to discuss, right? So actually, what is a joint? The joint means a location at which two or more bones make contact. Our bones are joined with each other. So joint means that is the location where the two or more bones are getting connected, right? So normally that joint is constructed to allow the movements and the mechanical support. Is there a joint that supports the movement of the body, or that supports the mechanical support of the body, right? So normally we have basically different types of joints in our body, right? So then some joints are fixed joints. They are fused. In our skull, there are different types of bones. They are fixed with each other. We can't move them. Other joints are movable joints. Those are called synovial joints. Movable. We can move those joints. These joints we can move. Movable joints. And others are fixed joints. We can't move them. So when we consider in these movable joints, right? When we consider in these movable joints, so we have to consider about two types of movable joints. One is ball and socket joint. Other one is the hinge joint. Ball and socket joint. Other one is the hinge joint, right? So then, so actually they are synovial joints. So then let's see, what are these ball and socket joints? Ball socket joints. Normally these ball and socket joints are found in the hip bone and the shoulder, right? Ball and socket joints can be found when we consider our skeletal system here. The one ball socket joint is here. Other ball and socket joint is here, right? Here in both arms we can see here and here. Okay, these parts, and then here. So actually in this ball and socket joint, you may see in that video also, it allows the most movement of all the joints, right? That means we can move in all directions. That is 360 degrees, right? And many planes. So likewise, so we can, we have a ball socket joint here, right? Then there's a vast the area we can move it, the joints. It allow the movement for all directions there, likewise, like this and like this, right? That is the ball socket. And hinge joints, right? Normally they are found in the elbow here and the knee. Hinge joints, they are also movable, right? So normally these bones allow to move back and forth like this, only this. We can't rotate it, or neither we can't do like that. It's only move back and forth, right? So that means we can move that into one direction, right? Here this is the ball socket joint. Now ball socket joint is made by our scapula and the humerus. Humerus and the scapula, the bones make a ball socket joint here, right? And our ulna, the bone ulna and the humerus made the hinge joint here, right? So that is the elbow, right? Elbow joint here. The elbow joint is made by the humerus bone, this bone, and the ulna. Here we have ulna and the radius, two bones. The bone ulna and the humerus, they make this hinge joint, right here. And the other one is, what is the synovial joint? Normally, synovial joint means in this joint, right? Normally, when the two bones are connected, when two bones are getting connected, so when there's a movement in between these two bones, it could create a friction. Due to the friction, so these bones may be damaged, right? The bones may be damaged, and due to the friction, it is not easy to move these two bones. And to avoid that, right, or to reduce the friction, the synovial joint is adapted, right? The synovial joint is adapted here to reduce the friction normally. So let's see how the synovial joints are created normally in between. So here one bone is here, one bone is here. In the surface of the bone, it is attached to a cartilage. Cartilage means it is called a soft bones, very soft part. It is having the same as the bone structure, but they are very soft, not hard structures, cartilage. In between the cartilage, there is a fluid that is called synovial fluid. Then these cartilage and synovial fluids avoid or reduce the friction among these two bones, right? So then when considering the functions of these synovial joints, right, normally cartilage covers the ends of the bones like this, covers the end of the bone, right? Because these cartilages are act as shock absorbers, right? Because they are very smooth. Cartilages are very smooth, soft, so therefore they create as shock absorbers, right? And also it has a particular membrane, right? That is that membrane. This membrane, this is called a synovial membrane, right? This here we can see. So it secretes, the synovial membrane secretes the synovial fluid here, right? The synovial fluid then lubricate the joints and make the movement easy. Remember, there is a cartilage and synovial fluid. Cartilage is a shock absorber. Synovial fluid make the movement easy by lubricating the joints, right? And also other part is the ligaments. Here you can see this white part, ligaments. What are these ligaments actually? Ligaments, they are elastic protein fibers. They are elastic fibers. They are made up of proteins. These strands hold these two bones together, right? Then these two bones are not getting dislocated. They are not dislocating because of these ligaments. So ligament holds two bones together, and cartilage is a shock absorber, and synovial fluid avoid the friction, or it's lubricate the joint, right? So therefore that is very easy to move the muscles, right? Normally when considering the muscles, right? When considering the muscles are attached to our skeletal system, you know that, right? We have three types of muscles in the body. One type of muscle is the voluntary or the skeletal muscle, the muscles which are attached to the bones, skeletal muscles, right? In our arms, these are skeletal muscles. Others are involuntary muscles. That means they normally our internal structures are made up of these involuntary muscles. For example, the wall of our stomach, intestine, bladder, right? Likewise, normally they are functioned by the involuntary actions. You know, the reflex actions, involuntary actions are there. So because we can't do those movements, they are involuntary movements. But voluntary movements here, skeletal muscles, right? Because we can move with our conscious control, right? Under our conscious control, we can move these muscles. If I need to bend my arm, then I can move the muscle like this. That is why they are called the voluntary muscles. Why they are called skeletal muscles? Because these muscles are attached to our bones, right? Then other type is involuntary. Why they are called involuntary muscles? Because there are involuntary movements, involuntary actions are there to function these muscles. Normally our internal structures are made up of these involuntary muscles, right? Another type of muscle is the cardiac muscle, so which is very limited to our heart. Like cardiac muscles only can see in our heart, right? So it helps the rhythmic action of our heart, right? Rhythmic action, so automatic action is there, the cardiac muscle, right? So normally we know that when considering our skeletal muscles or our the voluntary muscles, skeletal muscles, this part, right? Voluntary muscles, skeletal muscles. So these muscles can only contract and relax. These muscles can contract and relax. The ends of the muscles are attached to the bones via tendons. Ends of the muscles, right? So remember, if this is a bone, this is the bone, right? Then this is the muscle. This is the muscle here. This muscle is attached to the bone via tendons. Like this. These are tendons. This is the tendon. This is the tendon. Right? So they are attached to the bone via tendons. Right? So they are adapted to contract and relax. Right? They are adapted to contract and relax. And the important part is the antagonistic pairs. Right? So normally these skeletal muscles are arranged as the antagonistic pairs. Right? So what is this antagonistic pairs? Right? That pair of muscles, they arrange, right? They arrange in a way that when one is contracting, the other one is produce the opposite effect of that one, right? When one side is contracting, other part is relaxing, the opposite action, right? So when one part is contracting, other part is relaxing. The pair of muscles arranged like that. Example is the bicep and the tricep muscle, right? Here these two muscles are there. So this is our bicep muscle, this is the tricep muscle. Here you can see this bicep muscle is attached to the bones via the tendons. Here attached to the bones via the tendons. Tricep muscle is also attached to the bones via the tendons. You can see. So these two muscles are antagonistic, right? Antagonistic. When the bicep muscle is contracting, that means when I need to bend my arm, so here I give a signal for this my bicep muscle to contract. Then my bicep muscle is contracting. So what will happen? Here my tricep muscle should relax. It should relax. When I need to then move it forward, then I am relaxing my bicep muscle. At that time, my tricep muscle is contracting. Right? Here my tricep is contracting, my bicep is relaxed. So that is called the antagonistic effect. Right? Antagonistic effect. Right? Right. That's right. And tell me another part we have that antagonistic effect in our body. Do you remember? Yes, the iris muscle. Another one. Yes, digestive system, especially when we consider peristalsis movements in the esophagus. It also has the type of muscles which are functioning antagonistically, right? Correct. Right here. These two things, right? Okay. So here we should have the idea about the bones of the forelimb, the names of the bones at the forelimb, right? So what are the bones we have in the forelimb? That is the humerus, radius, ulna, and the scapula, right? humerus, or the scapula, humerus, scapula, humerus, radius, and ulna. These three bones. Here it is given here. Here you can see this is the scapula, and this one is the radius. Sorry, this one is this humerus bone, humerus, single bone, and then we have two bones. Here this bone is ulna, which is connected to the humerus. Ulna is connected to the humerus, and radius is not connected to the humerus, that is parallelly arranged with the ulna. Right? So these four bones are, we should have the idea about these four bones. Right? Remember, the ulna is connected with the humerus. Then it is easy to identify because it create that, it make the hinge joint there in the right. And what are the muscles we found? Bicep and tricep muscles, like this, right? So that those parts. Then we should have the idea about these bones then, and the muscles, and their effects, right? How they are functioning antagonistically, right? So while we are making the functioning the muscles, how they are functioning, right? This is about the summary of that lesson then.